Welcome everyone again to the Messy Shop. I'm Turbo Joe, and this is another Merkur. Today we're going to do one thing on it and then talk about where it's been and talk about where it's going. First thing we're going to do is learn how to put a new starter in this car. So I'll tell you the story about how I got this car and about how long I've had it. But first, let's get to this starter.
So I'll just go over what I'm doing here. First of all, disconnect your battery, then break loose the 3 mounting bolts to the starter, which are 17 millimeter. The bottom 2 you can break loose with an open end of a ratchet if they're tight. The top one, you have to snake a medium size extension with a 17 millimeter socket on it in between the strengthening bracket and the heat shield. Then the heat shield also has an additional bolt which is above it, which mine was missing, so I replaced it with a 17 millimeter bolt, but I can't remember. I think it's probably a 17 millimeter bolt as well. There goes the heat shield. So you'll also need to loosen the 13 millimeter bolt that is attaching that support bracket to the motor mount arm, and let the bracket hang down. Then you can remove the starter and let it hang by the power cable, the red power cable, and then you'll need a 3/8 of an inch tool, a wrench or a ratchet, to remove the power cable fastener. 10 millimeter will sometimes work. The 3/8 works best on this one. I'm not sure why they didn't just put a 10 millimeter since the rest of the car is metric. But you'll remove that. Don't drop it. Then to reinstall the shiny new starter, it's the opposite. Put the bracket in place, get the bottom 2 bolts in place, again, the bottom 2 can be accessed by any wrench. The top one, after you replace the heat shield, the top bolt will need to be fastened with an extension and a 17 millimeter socket. It's a little tight, but it's doable. Tighten down that top bolt for the heat shield. And then make sure everything's good and tight. Don't over tighten these because they are steel bolts going into an aluminum bell housing. Then you can tighten down the 3/8 bolt, which fastens the power cable to the starter, using a tool of your choice, and all done. Here's a close-up of the fasteners, 3 17 millimeters, 1 17 millimeter, possibly other size for the top of the heat shield, and then 1 for the power cable, which is a 3/8. And then there's the 13 millimeter, which holds the support bracket in place.
All right, here it is. This is a 1986 Merkur XR4Ti or Ford Sierra XR4Ti, American market car. If you've been following along, then you should know about what we're looking at here. If you haven't been following along and this is the first time that you're seeing one of these cars or you don't know much about it, I'll link in the description below a video where I talk about what these cars were at the beginning of the Ellie project, which is over there. I purchased this car from a friend of mine from Missouri. He loved the car. He's big into turbo Fords, but he wanted to move on to something else. So I bought it from him, cleaned it up a little bit, put it up for sale. A younger individual, a young man bought it as his first performance car. He drove it for a while, parked it during the winter, and then it sat for about a year. And unfortunately, in his parking lot, in his apartment building, it got tagged by a Fiesta, and then they drove off. So he called me and he said, "Hey, I need to get rid of this car. It'll be cheap, but I want you to have it." So I purchased it, got it back from him, and I will show you in right now. I'll put up a picture of what it looked like. So I was able to replace this entire fender, remove the fender, thanks to Blug at Merkur Parts Midwest. He was able to get me a new fender. If you need Merkur parts, XR4Ti or Scorpio, or even some Cosworth parts, give Jeff at Merkur Parts Midwest a call. He is one of my oldest car buddies and a very good friend. So under here, nice big intercooler. It's got a shorty radiator with dual fans, intercooler piping, blow-off valve, manual boost controller. It still has a small VAM, so I'll probably do an ECU and air meter upgrade on this car. It also has an aftermarket wastegate actuator. So, oh yeah, it also has a full 3-inch downpipe, kind of hard to see, downpipe and exhaust all the way out. So when I got it, all this was crumpled up. So I had to cut and section this radiator support. I had to repair this support here. All the inner headlight bucket was completely destroyed. The inner fender here I had to replace. This is the first time I had done any body work, so I'm fairly proud of the way it came out for not knowing what I was doing. So I have a Sierra GL grill that I'll set on there now. And there is the grill. It's different from the normal XR4Ti grill. It has some vents or some grills there. Definitely a different look. Usually it has glass headlamps that go in here just like the Cosworth, but they're smaller. But I really want to keep a hold of those. So the stock XR4Ti main lights fit pretty darn well. So I'm just going to leave it like that. This grill came on the Ford Sierra GL, or the base model as well. So once that's all body color, I think it'll look pretty good. Some people don't really like the way they look, but thankfully this is my car. So some notable things about this car: it is a solid roof, as you can see. No sunroof. Fairly difficult to find, but the first 2 years, 1985 and 1986, are most common to get the no sunroof. It is a 1986, as you can tell by the third brake light. Inside, we're gonna have to replace the dash. I have an extra dash for it. The other cool thing about this car, wind-up windows. Kind of difficult to find nowadays. Other than that, fairly stock, some gauges inside. Not sure what I'll do in there, but this is just supposed to be a fun little car. Kind of leaning towards green because I'm not doing that car green, but I really like green. So let me know, smoke gray or green in the comments. It'll probably maintain those Focus SVT wheels, but I'll probably paint them bronze. And I have a special project. I'm grafting the stock XR4Ti bumper with a Subaru Outback bumper because bumper options, front bumper options on these cars are almost non-existent. You have to get something from the UK, an RS or an RS 500 bumper, or maintain the incredibly ugly stock bumper, and I didn't want to do that. That'll be an entire episode by itself, and then we'll do a cheap paint job, $50 paint job, hashtag $50 paint job, hashtag Rust-Oleum paint job. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. It's another project. I have even more XR4Ti projects to do, and hopefully on this car I'm going to be able to do quite a bit of DIY stuff, since there's hardly any DIY stuff on YouTube for XR4Tis. Thanks for watching this little intro video. Hope you enjoyed, and hope you enjoyed learning how to replace the starter on your XR4Ti. If you enjoyed this, consider giving me a subscription, hitting the like button, etc., etc. Send me a comment. Would love to read your comments, and I try and respond to everything. If you have any questions about XR4Tis or Cosworths or European Fords, shoot me a question, and I'd love to try and help you out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.